This video is for lecture 4, the mechanical floor plan on Blackboard. So handout 1 will be the show you kind of what to do and what layer each piece goes on, as well as how to make the flex duct. Handout 2 will be the mechanical schedules. So we'll go through creating mechanical schedules. We'll use the red line. The red line full sheet is there just to show you how the sheet should look at the end with the schedules. And then the red line cropped floor plan is just the floor plan here. I made these so that if you wanted to print them out, they print out on an 8.5 by 11 legibly. And lastly, you have the cropped mechanical schedules. So once again, this will print out on 8 by 11 sheet of paper legibly. All right, so let's take a look at the handout first. So we're going to start with the demo plan. So you see we're still in the 1.07 demo plan, but I actually need to open up my M2.07 as well. So M207 mechanical do. Notice that it is a completely blank floor plan. I do give you all of the blocks over here, and we will be rotating and adjusting the scale on these as needed to build the floor plan. But first thing we want to do is we want to grab all of our existing stuff, excluding the demo layers, grab the existing stuff and move them over to our new mechanical plan. So I'm going to use the freeze. So the freeze is in your layer, freeze right here. So I'm going to freeze the demolition, and it will either turn off completely or it will turn just to a light gray, but where you can't edit it. Okay, so once I have, let's go ahead and hide the relocated arrows. Make sure that you're not on the layer. It won't freeze if you're on that layer, so set it to 0 if need. Okay, now we're going to go through and we're going to select everything except the background. So remember that selection process, that left to right I talked about, and make sure that you're not selecting your background here. If you either go right to left and select it, it will grab everything. In that case, you'll need to shift, click on your background to deselect it, or if you just make sure you don't fully encompass the background, then it won't select it. So I'm just going to go inside the grid here. The background is all one piece. And select all of my existing to remain stuff. All right, now we're going to use a command called copy base. Copy base. So this is super handy, and I use this a lot going back and forth from different drawings. I'm going to do copy base, and right here it says copy specify base point. We want to find a common place on this background, and we'll paste it, and that will be the base point for our paste. All right, so I'm just going to use the end piece of this grid here. You can make it anywhere. You can make it, right here. You could make it on one of the corners here. I'm just going to do it on the grid here. As long as you paste it and use that same base point, then you'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to copy with the base here at the end of this grid. I'm going to come over here, paste. Notice where my base point is at the bottom left, and I'm going to go and click on that same end piece here. All right, it also looks like we got some extra little P lines come through that were left over from the flex duct, I believe. I'm just going to delete that stuff. So now we're going to use the blocks over here and the line command to draw the ductwork, and we're going to start placing this stuff into the floor plan here. All right, so we're going to go over here and we're going to look at start putting in some slot diffusers. So remember on the initial lecture about the mechanical equipment, the slot diffusers are typically going to go on the outside of the perimeter of the building to cool off any heat load coming from the windows. All right, so I just selected this and I did Control C. I'm going to do a lot of Control C, Control V, copy paste. That's Probably some of the easiest shortcuts that you should know, and if not, you should definitely get to start using them. Really helpful in really all aspects of using the computer. And so remember I told you I like to keep my properties up because I can do a lot of editing of the video of the blocks in here. So you could always go through here and you could do rotate and start your rotate tool and make sure your O snap is on and hit this move this to 90. Or if you're working with blocks, you have a lot of handy things here like scale and rotation that you can edit just in the properties. So rotation, I can just come over here and set that to 0, and that'll turn the correct way. Clean up any excess lines that came in. All right, so I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to start placing this down. All right, now be careful whenever if you have your O snap on. Your O snap is this button down here, or F3 turns it on and off, as does Control F, I believe. Yep, Control F. But O snap, if you have your O snap on and you click in a hatch pattern, it could, depending on where you click, put your block at 0, 0. So because the hatch is placed at 0, 0, or based off a 0, 0 point, sometimes if you click on a hatch and you have your O snap on, then the O snap to that is 0, 0. So just be aware, it may be beneficial to turn your O snap off while you're placing some of these fixtures or some of these diffusers. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to start placing my diffusers. I'm going to hit F3 to turn my O snap off. And then we want to make sure that these are on the proper layer per the handout. All of diffusers go on CDFF. So we'll come over here and change these to mix CDFF. And then let's create some flex duct. To create flex duct, I'm going to start my polyline tool here. And basically you're going to be creating what are going to turn into the pull points for your spline. So it's okay to be super exaggerated about it. And I'll show you here in a second. So we created our spline. If yours doesn't come in, that looks like that's this wide, you may have this. If that's the case, basically you'll click on your spline here. In your global width, you can just set that to 6 inches, and that will make it wide like that. But to actually get it to be curvy, we'll need to turn this into a spline. So we'll just click on it, we'll right click, polyline, spline fit. All right, now notice it's a lot less, it's like an average, and curved, and your initial points that you picked turn into the base pull points essentially. All right, so let's do it again. Make sure it goes in the midpoint. Polyline spline. There we go. You don't have to do this, but I like to make mine where it looks like it's flat. And then we'll go through and add thermostat. So remember, the thermostat is essentially the control box for the units. This one is existing, so I just add that to existing layer, and we will draw an arc. And then we'll draw a line between the thermostat and the unit that it controls, and we'll just put that on the M anno layer. So because it's essentially just an annotation saying this thermostat controls this unit here. All right, so now we'll just use the line tool to go through and start building our ductwork. So MHVAC duct, that's good. So use a line tool. And we need a 90-degree elbow in here with the turning vents. And once again, I'm just going to use my rotation here. $180, that'll work. All right, I just did copy with the base point for this line over here. Copy with base point shortcut is Control Shift C. Regular copy is just Control C, but that'll usually copy it from the center. Control Shift C lets you pick a base point, and then whenever you hit Control V to paste, then it gives you your copy point where you clicked it. All right, and then you'll notice a couple things, or you'll see sizing on this ductwork over here. So what this means is that it's 20 inches wide by 10 inches deep. For our purposes right now, we just need to pay attention to this first number because that is how wide the duct is in floor plan. 10. Since this is just 2D drawing, this is more, for sizing that the engineers or designers would do. So for all of these, basically just pay attention to this first number, and that's how wide you know to make your duct here. All right, continuing on. All right, so let's do a VAV, the variable air valve. This is going to be up here. Remember to watch your O snaps. Make sure you don't. Notice that this VAV is not in the same position as the VAV on the handout. It's basically mirrored. So I'm going to do MI for mirror. Now it has the inlet on the right area, and it's got this oriented correctly. All right, so I'm going to do a polyline again. And then you can also use, you have these concentric transitions that will need to either scale or even burst and kind of make fit. These transitions a lot of times are made on site with sheet metal, so basically they can go through and they can make these the right size they need. So this one we are going to actually burst and basically make the correct size. So I'm going to burst. Actually, first let's make sure it's on the right layer. So HVAC duct. Make sure this is on HVAC equipment. Oop. And notice that as I click on this, that it doesn't actually have anything besides your XREF layers. So to fix that, you will need to come over to your layer properties and set this to all right here. And now whenever you click on your layers up here, it'll have all of your layers. All right, so we need to set, I'm going to set this unit here to M HVAC equipment, or M equipment. There you go. This is on M duct. All right, so now I'm going to use the stretch tool. Stretch tool is another handy tool. This one, stretch tool though, you have to use the right to left selection for it to work properly. So I'm going to use, go over here and select basically the point for these two lines. And I'm going to do stretch up here. And then whenever you click and drag, now those the end of those points follow. So it's a really handy tool to use for a lot of different applications. All right, and then we know we need a 12-inch duct by, remember that first number here? So it needs to be 12 inches. All right, so we're gonna make a line here that is 12 inches. And I'm gonna use the stretch tool again till I hit the endpoint here. Now we're gonna add the spin in taps. All right, and then I'm just gonna mirror this under here. All right, do a couple rectangular supply diffusers. Now, unfortunately, these won't snap exactly in the ceiling without editing the background, so we're just going to get it close enough. Remember, you can zoom in and hit Control and your nudge and your arrow keys and nudge these around. You do want to make sure these are lined up in the ceiling grid. Control F to turn off OSNAP. All right, there we go. Let's do some duct work, some flex duct. All right, you will notice that it may not be exactly like the handout. It can be a little off. Really, I see dimensions very few and far between on any drawings, except for maybe special cases like the conduit plan I showed you before. But usually it's lined up with ceiling grids or in this general vicinity, and that's because there's so much stuff up here that without actually being in Revit or anything like that, it's hard to coordinate. Hard to coordinate that exact in AutoCAD. Even in Revit, we don't place a lot of dimensions on our drawings. Maybe mechanical equipment and penetrations, through floors and roofs and stuff, we would, but usually for ductwork and things of the sort, we don't. So basically, you'll go through and you will add in all of the, all of the lines here. Add in all of the text. So these are diffuser tags. So this would go back to B, and you would see diffuser B on a schedule, and then 175 is the CFM, or how much air is coming out. This dimension right here, so it's 20 inches wide by 10 inches deep. This right here, this indicates a round duct, and so this is a 10-inch round, 2218. We do have a what's a fan coil unit in here, and this is like one of those little spot coolers for the IT room that we talked about in the slideshow. And this does have plumbing lines through here. condensate drain, and supply. So we'll just go through and start drawing the floor plan. One last thing I want to show you is the scaling tool. The scaling tool will let you match sizes a lot easier without having to do any calculations or just kind of guesswork. All right, so I'm going to rotate this 180. So we know that we need a elbow essentially to be, this line needs to be 20 inches tall. So if I run dist, which is just a measurement, see that's 1'8", so that's 20 inches. All right, so an easy way to make that match is that I'm going to go and I'm going to click on my block here, and I'm going to use the scale tool. So scale here, or SC is a shortcut. I'm going to hit the common base point between these two. And notice that now, you could try to sit here and move your mouse ever so slightly and line it up, or you can hit R for reference. And now I'm going to click essentially each side of this elbow, so here and here. And now that'll let me scale this up to wherever I move my mouse to. So if I just drag to the end of this piece of duct, click, now you know that this is going to be the same width as your transition piece. All right, so you can use that for any sort of, any elbows, or if you need to scale anything and you don't know the exact amount you need to scale it, but a common piece that will need to match, you can use that. That's an easy way to scale things that you're not sure how big it will need to scale, but have a reference point. And also you can see down here, this is the refrigerant piping and the condensate drain. These should, if you pull these out, have your lettering for it, and that should be, that's what these lines are in here for the plumbing, for these fan coil units. The red is the refrigerant, and the CD is the condensate drain, which is this one coming out. And then here's the plumbing pieces for your units here. Make sure you add the tags after it would just text on the. Make sure you put those on the M anno, so that's annotation. Make sure you put those your CFM. Actually, they're already on there. And that concludes this lecture.